time to take our breathing practice to the next level with what's called 90-90 breathing. Before we dive into all that, first though, I just want to review, if maybe you did not watch the first breathing video, or just to as a refresher, that we're really working on connecting our diaphragm, our core, as it is 360 degrees around, so our abs and our back muscles and our pelvic floor. It all works together to stabilize our body with our breath. So, real quick, let's dive into that visual that we looked at in the first breathing video as a quick refresher.
All right, so as we breathe on an inhale, the diaphragm contracts down. The belly, your transverse abdominis, and your pelvic floor relax down and out. You can see your transverse abdominis. It's not just this front line is showing the belly expand out, but the transverse abdominis are these muscle fibers that run around your core like a corset. Okay, so those get super stretched out during pregnancy, and where part of this retraining our breath is retraining that length tension ratio to strengthen your transverse abdominis and pelvic floor. Because if you set it up with a really good inhale, where the diaphragm expands down, the belly and the transverse abdominis relax down and out, an exhale, especially a forceful exhale, will automatically contract your transverse abdominis and your pelvic floor. Now, this does require some retraining during this phase of postpartum, because look at what happens during pregnancy. You know, the normal function gets disrupted for two reasons. One, there's a baby in the way. There's a connection between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, and then when you put a baby in between them, that connection gets disrupted. And secondly, if you look at the transverse abdominis, those lines connecting that corset, you can see how they get all distorted and stretched out. So we need to intentionally reconnect and retrain and reestablish the proper length tension ratio of those transverse abdominis in a way that is safe on your pelvic floor. And that's exactly what we're doing with these breathing exercises.
All right, so now that we kind of have that visual of how everything is supposed to work together, I want to take this to the next level with what's called 90-90 breathing. For this, you'll need a towel and something to squeeze between your legs. It could be another rolled up towel, or it could be a small playground ball. I got this at Target. A yoga block, just something around this size that you can squeeze between your legs. So what we are going to do here is first roll down onto your back and adjust yourself so that when you put your feet up in the wall, which I need to get a little bit closer, your legs are at 90 degrees. So that's the 90-90 breathing here. The ball goes in between your legs, and then the towel to support your head and neck. Now here, before we even dive into anything, I want to do some checks. A posture check. So check in on your pelvis. Your pubic bone and your hip bones should be level. So if you're finding your pubic bone is a little bit higher than your hip bone, untuck those glutes. If you're finding your hip bone is a little bit higher than your pubic bone, shift your hips forward a little bit, but without engaging your glutes. And then I want you to check in. I want you soft glutes, soft hip flexors. None of these muscles are working. Now, if you need to engage the hamstrings to kind of help turn some of this off, think about pulling your feet down without actually moving your feet. Think about pulling them down on the wall. And then the ball is here because the adductors, these inside muscles here get super stretched out during pregnancy and overworked during birth, they're very, very important and directly connected to your pelvic floor. So we're going to start practicing using those and getting them working in the full kinetic chain. So we got our posture, hip posture figured out here. Our quads, our hip flexors, our glutes are all nice and soft. So you need to be able to engage your pelvic floor without clenching your glutes. And then we're going to practice our 90-90 or our 360 breathing in this 90-90 posture. So you can place your hands on your ribs here. I like to have a hand underneath too so I can feel that expansion, breathing my ribs down into the floor. Take a deep breath in. This should not be all chest and belly. There should be some side and floor expansion. Now, I am about 25 weeks pregnant now, so I'm not getting as much expansion into my back. That's totally normal. That's why we're having to rehab this in the first phase, postpartum. But that's what you want. I want you to feel it. I feel it slightly, but you should feel it more than I am. Inhale, back down, and then exhale. Squeeze in, pelvic floor comes up, hip bones, transverse abdominis come in, draw the hip bones together. And now I want you to focus also on the ribs knitting together as well, from the bottom up. So it'll be inhale and then exhale. Squeeze, pelvic floor engages, then the hip bones come together, then knitting the ribs together, all on that long, forceful exhale. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, so the inhale goes down, the diaphragm contracts down, expanding into sides, back, belly, and the pelvic floor relaxes. And then on the exhale, we reverse it back. We squeeze, this reminder, helpful engager of the pelvic floor, engage the pelvic floor, pull in the hip bones together, knit the abs together with the knitting the ribs together without using your shoulders. So this action comes from the core, not from gripping down with your upper body. So this should all stay nice and relaxed through the process. If you're having a hard time getting the upper body out of the equation, you can keep your arms up over your head for this as well. So once you get the feel, if you're good, inhale, and you don't need that feedback, you can put your arms up overhead, and that will help you take the upper body out of it as you're engaging your core and knitting your ribs down. So I'll show you that. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Now lastly, the point I want to make here is when you are exhaling, make sure it's from the bottom up, and that when you're that last part, you're knitting your ribs together, you're not pushing down into your pelvic floor. So once these lower abs come in, they should stay in, locked in. If you notice, film yourself doing this. If you notice that when you get to the end of your exhale and you're knitting your ribs together, that your lower belly starts to pooch out, you are putting pressure down into your pelvic floor, which is exactly what we do not want. So back off on that a little bit until you've mastered that, holding your transverse abdominis, holding the pelvic floor in, and then this knitting down isn't a continuation of that corset around. So that is your 90-90 breathing. The continuation of our breath work and the kind of next level up from that side lying breathing. If you're finding you're having a hard time expanding into your sides and back, the other exercise that was with it on the blueprint, the side lying rib expansion will be really important here for you. So that is laying down on your side, much like the position of the side lying breathing, but you want to pull your knees up as far in as you can. I'm pregnant, so my belly is like very much in the way here, but like curl yourself into a small ball as you can. And then putting your hand on your rib, you're going to take a deep inhale, and on your exhale, push down, and then hold it down. You're not like giving extreme pressure. We're not trying to break our ribs here or anything. If you have any sort of osteoporosis, this is something you don't want to do. But you're pushing your rib down, and on your next inhale, hold it down with your hand, and you'll feel that expansion go into your back. And then on your next exhale, push a little bit further. And then inhale, expansion, nice expansion into your back. Inhale. Exhale. And obviously do that on both sides. And then go do the 90-90 breathing again and see if you can't feel that expansion more into your lower back. Now, getting that expansion into your back is not just important for the breathing, it's really important for your posture and then in the mobility, stability, job of your spine. You want your mid-back, your thoracic spine to be pretty mobile, and then practicing that expansion into your ribs and that back body will also help with that. So everything is connected. A lot of it stems back down from that breath. So that's why we're spending so much time working on and mastering our breath.